What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of May this year in 2024. And this was an absolutely killer month for vinyl finds. We have some Record Store Day leftovers. We have Kiss and Aerosmith anniversary releases, new albums by the Lemon Twigs and of Montreal, as well as a reissue of a much needed Queen live album. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Okay, so now that the hype and craze of Record Store Day this year is done, we are now left with the leftovers, the things that kind of trickled, that stores can't really get rid of for whatever reason, or stuff that appreciates big time in value. And this was a release that let's just say was number one on my radar, and I had no luck in getting my hands on when it came time to do my Record Store Day haul video. And I was not sure what the aftermarket was going to be like for this release, so I kind of bought this on Discogs out of sheer Record Store Day paranoia, because of my love for this band, as well as the drummer of this particular band, and you can probably guess what that is. I am talking about Eric Carr's Unfinished Business. Of course, Eric Carr has been well represented in the past couple of Record Store Days with the re-release of the Rockology album, both on splatter vinyl as well as a picture disc, and now this is the missing piece. So Unfinished Business came out on CD back in, I think, 2011. And it's basically just various songs that were kind of fleshed out by other musicians. There's some spoken word bits, some re-recorded bits of Eric tracks. So it's just a nice sort of, not really continuation of Rockology, but it kind of just fills in the gaps and kind of celebrates, you know, his music and his artistry. And this is the first time that it has been pressed on vinyl by the Culture Factory label. And it comes with all fresh artwork. And as you see here, they kind of do a little homage to the Creatures of the Night album cover. But what's really cool is the packaging of this. And it's a real shame because I charged this and I played around with it, and now I have to recharge it. But if you point in between his eyes, they do glow with white lights. So it's a nice little homage to the Creatures cover. I don't know why Kiss didn't do that first. But it's a really cool thing. To be honest, that is what kind of adds to just the bulky nature of the packaging. Because as you see here, it's literally like a box set, essentially. So there is the back, and it opens up just like this. And you have the main meats and potatoes of the package inside here. So here is the standard single pocket jacket, same as the front and back of the box. It does come with a really cool poster, kind of still riffing on the 1978 solo album sort of idea, which is still really cool. And the records do come housed in printed inners with some cool photos of Eric. This one, of course, being from the Creatures tour. And then we have a cool sort of Animalize Era one here, which is really sick. And the flip side has liner notes and details. The main LP comes pressed on blue vinyl. Try to get that back in there. And the second LP, which is essentially the bonus cuts, comes pressed on yellow vinyl. So needless to say, as a Kiss completist, I had to get this. I did manage to get the CD for Record Store Day, but what fun is that when you can have the 12-inch version with the light-up eyes? So I was very happy to get my hands on this. Definitely a must own if you are a Kiss/Eric Carr fan. And then we get to the big sort of novelty release for this year's Record Store Day. And this kind of has been a pattern for the past couple of years in terms of the sort of Crosley 3-inch records thing. I do have the Doors box that was put out last year, but I kind of bought that, I mean, obviously because I'm a Doors fan, but also because of the nature of it being a 3-inch mini turntable, I had to buy into the novelty of it. And truth be told, I initially was just gonna forget about this particular release, or I should say releases for this year, but because this year does celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Fab Four coming to America, I was kind of feeling celebratory. So I did go ahead and manage to pick up the little 3-inch record sets by the Beatles. So, of course, there's I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, Till There Was You, and I Saw Her Standing There. Now, 3 of these are still sealed, and I might keep them that way, but I did open up one just so you can kind of see what entails. So it opens up in this sort of envelope-style packaging. Here is the little mini jacket, which, to be honest, when you see how small it is, like in the scale of it, it is the absolute cutest thing. And the backside features them playing on the Ed Sullivan Show. And then literally, here is your little 3-inch record that you can only play on a Crosley RSD 3 turntable, which I'll play that on my Doors one. And each of these, now I don't know for certain if all of these are different, but at least with this one, you get this little napkin style fold out poster of the guys in Washington, D.C., which is honestly really, really cool. It would be nice to know if these were all different. Maybe I'll open all these up at a later time to find out. But it is a cool little thing, and it adds to the collecting value because if they're all different, then you got to snag them all. But needless to say, given what these do go for in the aftermarket, I am really happy to have snagged these up just because I'm a Beatles fan as well. Okay, so consider this segment to be a little bit of a bonus Easter egg that goes along with my video when I went to Smash Records over in Washington, D.C., because on that same day before my girlfriend and I went to Smash Records, we did stop at an Urban Outfitters to kind of kill some time before we went to the various other spots that we hit up that day. And I was looking at the record selection, which, to be fair, I don't buy vinyl from Urban Outfitters quite often. They do a lot of cool exclusives, but I'm not so much in the radar. But when I was thumbing through their section, I realized that they had done exclusives of this particular band, and while I had basically all but one of their albums, I got the missing one, and I figured I would kind of fill in that gap with a nice little Urban Outfitters exclusive. And the band that I am talking about is The Strokes, and this is the album Come Down Machine. And like I said, this is the one that I was missing, and this is the Urban Outfitters exclusive, which I will showcase. I do have to say, for some may dub the artwork as unimaginative, but I kind of do like that stock sort of RCA kind of artwork design here. Here's the hype sticker, which I kind of just peeled off the shrink wrap, and it has a cool sort of retro stock inner sleeve. And this comes pressed on what is described as natural vinyl. Is that the commercialized version of Clarity vinyl? Makes you wonder. And it kind of has that old school RCA label, but in red. So all around good stuff. I absolutely love the Strokes, one of the most important rock bands of the 21st century. And with now getting my hands on this, my core Strokes catalog / collection is now finally complete. All right, guys, this album's 50th anniversary was celebrated this year, and they dropped a special vinyl pressing to commemorate this anniversary. But this time around, I was in a chokehold to get it, and I will explain why. And I am talking about, of course, the self-titled debut by my favorite band of all time, and that is Kiss. Literally one of the greatest debut albums of all time. I don't say that biased because this album literally plays like a greatest hits. You have Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, Deuce, 100,000 Years, and Black Diamond. If you're not going to start with Destroyer, you can start with this album and be well off to the races. And this is now my 4th copy of this album to add to the other 3 that I own. And this, of course, was made only available on kissonline.com. And this is the gold vinyl version. And as you can see, there's like a nice sort of gold foil finish to the cover. Kind of nice and shiny metallic. Here is the back. Very nice overall. And what's cool about this is that it does come with a sort of golden version of the original promo poster, which looks really sick. This is limited to 2,500 copies worldwide, and it's pressed on sort of gold nugget colored vinyl. It has a nice sort of rippled effect towards the middle. And of course, on that Casablanca label, I guess you could say this is the gold Bogart label because it is in gold instead of blue, which looks really, really awesome. But here is where they got me, as not just me, everybody, because typically with these anniversary pressings, they are available separately on their own, along with a bunch of other merchandise, such as t-shirts and buttons and gold record awards and pennants and such. But here's the thing. If you wanted this, you had to get this long sleeve t-shirt, which I'll admit looks pretty cool, but if I had my option, I would just go for the vinyl because I don't need another Kiss t-shirt. I literally have one for every day of the week. And it took a little bit of let's just say persuading from my girlfriend for her to say, that's a cool shirt, you should really get it. And I'm just like, all right. And I was thinking about maybe selling it, but honestly, it looks really cool. And when the colder months return, I will gladly sport this. But nonetheless, I'm glad that I still got my hands on it. I feel like it would just be missing from my collection if I wasn't able to get it. But yes, going to celebrate the 50th anniversary proudly of one of the greatest debuts of all time by my favorite band. Okay, so one of my favorite prog bands of all time just released this compilation on vinyl for the very first time. I would say if you're looking for a 1 CD slash 2 LP set that gives you an overview of all the heavy hitters, I'd say this is the collection to check out by Genesis. This is Turn It On Again, the hits. Major emphasis on, of course, Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance, the Mama album. But of course, we do have tracks from albums such as Duke, Then There Were Three, Selling England by the Pound is represented on here. But I think the main draw with this collection is that it features Carpet Crawler's 1999, which is a re-recording of the song done by the classic lineup of Hackett, Rutherford, Banks, Collins, and Gabriel. And I do have that Last Domino compilation that came out a couple years ago for the tour, which is like a 4 LP set, which is very comprehensive. But if you're looking for a good sort of concise primer, I'd say this is the collection to check out. Does come with 2 printed inners with the track list and credits, and this is actually the Amazon exclusive. Now, I'm not condoning purchasing vinyl off Amazon just because I am a collector of variants and things that they had this up for grabs. The Amazon exclusive pressing comes pressed on what is described as Invisible Touch clear vinyl, and of course there's a standard black version as well. But nonetheless, very happy to get this solid and concise Genesis compilation into the collection. Okay, so these next 2 records I'm going to show you guys are sort of gray area pressings. Not in the legal bootleg sense, but in the sense that these are official albums slash releases, but the backstory of these pressings is kind of hairy. Word has it that a distributor was kind of bootlegging themselves in the sense that they were doing their own pressings of albums by certain artists on certain labels and then offering them to distributors and such at low prices, I would say. And these started to pop up around like the mid 2000s, and you don't really see them circulate too much these days. You might. But I knew a connection that hooked me up with some titles for prices within the single digits range. So it kind of goes to show it helps to know who you know. And I managed to cop a copy of Shades of Deep Purple. This is Deep Purple's first album with the Mark I lineup. Features the track Hush, which was a big hit at the time. They also do a fantastic rendition of the Beatles' Help. I think it's better than the original, personally. They also cover Hey Joe as well, and I'm So Glad. So it's a lot of covers. It's a typical early Deep Purple record, but in terms of original material, you have End the Address, which is a great grooving instrumental opener, and then you also have Mandrake Root, which was a notable stage highlight in the early Deep Purple live stage. I do have this album already in my collection. I have a European mono pressing, which has an entirely different cover. But this, as you see, replicates the original American 1968 Tetragrammaton pressing, and this is in stereo as well. And I honestly like this album enough to have both a stereo and a mono copy. And just for the sake of showing, there's that silver Tetragrammaton label there, which looks really, really cool. And then moving on, we also have Big Brother and the Holding Company. Still beefing up my Big Brother Janis Joplin collection. And what's cool with this pressing is that it comes pressed on blue vinyl, which is really cool. And now that I'm seeing it, it's actually kind of interesting how it all comes full circle, because obviously the Big Brother album is on mainstream records. And a while ago, I had a copy of the Amboy Dukes' Journey to the Center of the Mind, which I believe came from this same sort of run of wonky pressings, which I recently parted ways with when I got the Record Store Day pressing. So it's kind of interesting how it all kind of circles itself back around. But hey, for less than $10 I got these pressings for, that's really not a bad deal whatsoever. So I was really happy to get my hands on these. And now here is a brand new album by a relatively new band that has been making a lot of buzz lately. And I have been aware of these guys for a while, I would say a couple of years. And I've always enjoyed what I've heard, but I never just took the plunge to get a full-length album. And needless to say, the marketing strategy behind this record has been massive. Everywhere I looked online, I kept seeing ads for this album and hearing sound bites and listening to the singles. And I was like, okay, I think now is the time. And the band that I am talking about is the Lemon Twigs. A Dream Is All We Know. This band is basically a set of two brothers, Brian and Michael D'Adrio, and they just make fantastic sounding retro Baroque pop. When you listen to this, all you can think of is Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. Everything down to the instrumental arrangements, the harmonies, the production style. It is just a great throwback kind of record. I also low-key get some Sparks vibes just because it's two brothers and they kind of tap into that whole sort of glammy sort of thing that they kind of tend to find themselves in. But I am really happy and excited to finally own a full-length album by these guys. They are definitely worth the discovery, in my opinion. And this album does come with a nice fold-out poster. There are the brothers right there. Nice printed inner sleeve as well, with some nice artwork and some Polaroids. And the indie exclusive comes pressed on white vinyl, otherwise known on the hype sticker as ice cream vinyl. It's fitting. But nonetheless, very happy to finally have a full-length album by the Lemon Twigs. Okay, so here is a reissue that I am very excited about, and it is about time that we got more archival live releases on vinyl by Queen, and this is Queen Rock Montreal. This was recorded at the Montreal Forum in November 1981, and this show has a bit of an interesting backstory behind it. So it was shot on film, and it was released as a concert film in the mid-1980s called We Will Rock You, and then it got remastered and restored in 2007, and it was re-released as Queen Rock Montreal, which I have a lot of fun memories of seeing because I got the original 2007 DVD back when I was a kid, along with the 2 CD soundtrack. There was a vinyl pressing done of this in 2007 when it first got re-released, but that is itching for upwards to like $200. And recently this concert film was given the IMAX treatment. So they re-released it on Blu-ray and they reissued the soundtrack on CD as well as vinyl, which is a nice welcome because this is honestly such a solid show, and it is the last time that Queen went out as just the four of them before they got side keyboard players and such. It's Brian, Freddie, Roger, and John in all of their pomp and glory. It's a fantastic listen, and honestly, I am still waiting on reissues of all of the other Queen live albums because EMI, Parlophone, Universal have given us the studio albums box set on colored vinyl. They've done all that, but I am itching to get reissues of, Live Killers, Live Magic, Wembley, The Bowl. But now that we got this, perhaps that's a sign of what's to come. We shall see. Maybe to tie in with the IMAX thing, but one can hope. But anyways, you have Freddie right there on the front. Then we have a couple of live shots with a cool, ominous stage shot with the glowing lights. Each of the 3 LPs are housed in printed inners. There, of course, we have John Deacon, Roger Taylor, as well as Brian May with Freddie. And we have all kinds of shots taken from the show with some liner notes, all on heavyweight black vinyl, and I am really excited to spin my way through one of Queen's most finest gigs from the early 80s with Queen Rock Montreal. Okay, so recently I stopped at a local record store in my neck of the woods called Tunes, and I saw this record on the wall. And it had been on the wall for several months, to the point where, like, the last couple of times I had been at the shop, I kept looking at it and I said to myself, next time around. And then next time came, and then I said, next time around. So it just kind of kept prolonging, and it was still there, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna make some moves. And I was kind of chatting it up with some of the workers there at the shop. And of course, just because, you know, myself included, we all work in record stores, we understand the business inner workings and how it all just kind of entails. So all I said was, in my polite way of saying, can you go lower on this price? I just said, this has been on the wall for several months. What can you do? And this record, you know, it's come out in the last 10 years. Yes, it was still sealed. It's not this super, you know, rarity type of thing, but for me, it's something that holds its value. And needless to say, they came back to me with a price that was better than what I initially had in mind. So I was just like, sold. And the record that I am talking about is Dodge and Burn by The Dead Weather. Now, The Dead Weather is a supergroup consisting of Dean Fertitta from Queens of the Stone Age, Alison Mosshart from The Kills, Jack White, of course, from White Stripes, Raconteurs solo artist, and then Jack Lawrence, who was in the Greenhorns, as well as the Raconteurs. And this album came out back in 2015, and I remember I devoured the hell out of this album when it came out. This was basically the soundtrack to my freshman year of college. Like, I just listened to this nonstop. I had a standard, just black regular copy, but this right here is the Third Man Records Vault Edition. And as you see, they kind of modify the artwork a little bit. Nice sort of black and white hue with these sort of blue glitter flames on the front, which has like a nice sort of bit of finish to it. Here's the back. Now, like I said, this was sealed, and I cracked the seal open, and this is going back, what, almost 10 years? Opens up, and Third Man has this thing called a greeting card gatefold, where, like, you open up a gatefold and it makes, like, a sound. It was supposed to make a sound in this, because there's, like, a battery pack in here, but I think I might have to swap it out. It's supposed to make a sound. But nonetheless, it's still a cool feature. And, of course, to add some exclusivity behind the vault pressing, this does come with an additional poster not featured in the standard pressing, and there's also a nice sort of alternate design to the insert, which has all of the lyrics as well as the credits. And then the vinyl itself is pressed on marbled yellow vinyl with bits of black in there, which looks absolutely stellar. So I was very happy to get my hands on this. And then another record that I picked up, not at Tunes, but just in my travels. I got my hands on this from a shop that basically got a bunch of damaged LPs. Damaged in the sense of there were some corner dings and seam splits and this and that. And I guess depending on the buyer, you know, some of these damages might not be too triggering. But I copped this for less than $10. So I thought, okay, that's not a bad price for an album that I've been wanting to get for a little while. And that is The Cure's 17 Seconds. I am a huge fan of the early Cure catalog, particularly like Three Imaginary Boys up until Pornography. Yeah, I know Disintegration and Wish are like the two big ones, but that early post-punk, gothy, you know, type of thing that they were doing early on in their career is of immense interest there. And there you can kind of see where some of the damage is there. It kind of wraps around a little. There's some creases on the bottom corner there, but not enough to make me go too mental. But overall, solid package all around, printed inner sleeve, and here is the nice custom center label there. Gotta give this a clean. It's been in the sleeve for a while, but nonetheless, not too bad around for getting two records at both killer prices and discounts. Can't go wrong. Okay, so these two albums are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, and what better way to commemorate the anniversary than with some new vinyl pressings? Starting off with David Bowie, Diamond Dogs. So this album is kind of the sort of transitional album out of the whole Ziggy era, while he still very much portrays the character on the album cover. This was originally supposed to be a musical adaptation of 1984 by George Orwell. Couldn't secure the rights to the book, so instead it turned into this. I would say this album kind of resides itself in the sort of classic Bowie sort of era. The opener, Future Legend, is one of my favorite album openers of all time, and that goes into the title track. Sweet Thing is great. Rebel Rebel, of course, was a big hit. 1984, the song is based on the book. Honestly, a very colorful album musically. Now, ever since Ziggy Stardust celebrated its 50th anniversary, Parlophone and the Bowie Camp have been doing these half-speed master pressings. While the main catalog was reissued several years ago for the various era box sets, as well as standalone reissues, they are now putting them out again as these half-speed cuts, and they come packaged with these sort of obi strips, which are just essentially parts of the artwork. And they use the same remaster that was done for those original reissues. And obviously, as you can tell, this is the uncensored jacket, if you know what I mean. So the differences are kind of minute, but I'll take a half-speed master, honestly, any day. And like most Bowie reissues, it comes with that modified RCA label there where it says Bowie instead of RCA. Kind of curious if they will continue this onwards with Young Americans and Station to Station. It's interesting how they kind of started it at the Ziggy album. You thought that they would do Hunky Dory, but it was not to be. So we got this, and here is an even exciting one. And this is one I'm super stoked with, mainly because I really, really love this album. And that is Aerosmith's Get Your Wings. Now, I think Aerosmith's management is starting to take some notes from the Kiss camp in terms of how they went about this vinyl pressing. So this pressing was only made available on Aerosmith's web store. It is limited to 1,974 copies, numbered and stamped on the back, obviously because 1974 was when this album came out. And as you can see, it's a nice matte cover with this sort of gold embossment of the original Aerosmith logo. Here is the back. And in terms of extra goodies, we have this little sticker that's included. And we also have the original newspaper ad that came out for the album. And then as for the pressing itself, like I said, similar because Kiss's debut kind of got a similar sort of treatment as you saw earlier. But this comes pressed on sort of gold rippled sparkle vinyl, which looks really cool. Also, I am so not used to seeing that Capitol Records label there since they are now on Capitol instead of Columbia, so that's kind of interesting. But it's a gorgeous pressing. You can kind of see the sparkle much better in person. It doesn't really appear well on a camera, but it is a vibrant piece of gold ripple vinyl. And I don't know if, let's say, Aerosmith management is testing the waters to see if something like this would work, and if they are going to be doing pressings like this for Toys in the Attic and Rocks. It's interesting that they started here instead of the debut, so maybe they're kind of just taking notes and seeing what works. But nonetheless, this is a very cool pressing to have of one of Aerosmith's best albums and one of my personal favorites. Okay, here is another new album, this time around by of Montreal, and this album is called Lady on the Cusp. I really enjoy Of Montreal. I would say in the past couple of years, they have been one of my biggest new music discoveries. The early stuff is where it's at, and some of the new stuff is interesting. But I do give Kevin Barnes a lot of credit for constantly reinventing himself and the group, essentially being a sort of modern day Bowie / Prince type of guy. I've really enjoyed some of the singles that I've heard leading up to this release. I kind of see this, my prediction is that it's kind of going to be like a little bit of a melting pot. Like you have some of the dense electronic elements of Montreal's more recent work, and then you have some of the more standard acoustical, standard verse, chorus type stuff. But nonetheless, I'm excited to give this a listen. The last album that came out was the Freewave Lucifer album, which, I'm going to be honest, I played it once and that was kind of it. So I'm hoping that this makes its way again on the turntable. But as always, you have David Barnes's eye-catching artwork, which is very colorful and vibrant. It is absolutely nuts. And I went as far as to jump on the polyvinyl early bird edition. Typically when polyvinyl puts out a new release, they'll do an early bird pressing, which is usually limited to about 500 or 600 copies, and it's on a pretty cool collectible color variant. And this right here is basically red inside green with blue splatter, which looks absolutely eye-catching and matches the loud nature of the artwork quite nicely. And definitely excited and curious to dig into the latest album of Montreal. Okay, so now we're going to wrap this haul up with a stop at the Haddonfield Record Exchange in my home state of Jersey. On my day off, I had some time to myself, and I figured I would kill some time at a record store. And let me tell you, it had been about maybe 5 years since I last went to Haddonfield Record Exchange. And I remember the first time I went, it was pretty cool, but this time around, I struck some gold. And I was looking in the K's. Didn't find any Kiss gems, but I found some really cool things, such as the Best of the Kinks 1964 to 1970. This is a Kinks compilation that I have been wanting for a while. Kind of brings together all of those sort of non-album singles such as You Really Got Me, All Day and All the Night. Then of course you have things like Lola, Sunny Afternoon, Waterloo Sunsets, Victoria. This is like the prime sort of Kinks era. And everywhere I looked, this was basically out of print and hard to come by. And needless to say, I paid a price that was essentially a third of what it goes for. So it was probably just sitting there for a while and no one retrieved it. And sure enough, timing was absolutely right, and I managed to get my hands on this awesome Kinks compilation. Also looking in the K's, and you can probably guess what it is that I also left with. This band tends to be a sort of running theme in the past couple of monthly vinyl hauls. Got myself some King Gizzard. This is 12 Bar Brews. This is their first full-length album. It's funny because when I was on the way to the shop, I was listening to a lot of the early Gizzard, and I absolutely love the sort of fuzzed out sort of psych pop kind of thing that they had going for them. Had some surf elements in there too, and this is completely up in that sort of alley. It was kind of tough because I was gonna get this or get the Paper Mache Balloon album, but I might go back for that at some point soon because that's another Gizzard record that I don't have. But because I was in an early Gizzard mode, I would pick this up. And the packaging is honestly really, really cool. I like the sort of DIY look of the printed inner sleeve. You got a band photo, you got some lyrics here. I'm really stoked to give this a spin. And it comes pressed on green vinyl as well on their own Flightless label, which is really, really awesome. So happy that I got my hands on that. And then the last record I picked up, this was actually kind of a surprise because I typically don't really see many records by this band out in the wild, especially this particular pressing. So it was kind of shocking, and I found it surprisingly cheap, which was really awesome. And that is Rainbow, Straight Between the Eyes. I absolutely love Rainbow. Richie Blackmore is one of my favorite guitarists. And on this album, this is kind of when Rainbow starts to get a little more commercialized. You got Jolyn Turner on vocals here. Stone Cold is on this album. Eyes of Fire is really good. Power's a great track. This is honestly really, really solid stuff. Does come with a nice printed inner sleeve as well. There's a picture of the band there. Lyrics on this side. And then has some nice custom center labels as well with the eyes referencing the front cover. So overall, a very successful venture to the Haddonfield Record Exchange, and I definitely will be there again sometime very soon. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of May this year in 2024. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.